Hey everyone, welcome back. My name is Daria if you're new to my channel, and in today's yoga practice, we will work on anchoring in the breath. So the breath is a really powerful tool that we can use to keep ourselves in the present moment. Often the root of anxiety will be thoughts of the past or the future. And so I find that this practice of coming back to the breath, diving into deeper layers of sensation and experience can really help me with those feelings of anxiety when they arise. So all that you'll need for this class is yourself and someplace to move. And whenever you're ready, let's go ahead and get into it. We'll get started today on our backs in Supta Baddha Konasana. So spin to face the top of your mat. Bring the soles of your feet together and allow your knees to splay open wide. Then lower all the way down to your back so that your shoulders and your head can totally surrender. From here, close your eyes and softly place one hand to your low belly and bring one hand up to your heart. Right away, see how much you can let your knees fully surrender to gravity. So you can soften all the muscles in your outer hips and in your inner thighs. If you're feeling quite a bit of tension and holding, you can always slide a couple of blocks, pillows, blankets, whatever you have beneath your knees for a little more support here, or ground your feet to the earth. Begin just by noticing your breath. So often, if we're feeling like it's difficult to access our emotional states or we're feeling a little bit numb, the breath can be a good indicator of how we're doing. Notice if your breath is shallow, if it's deep, what the quality of the breath is like, and if there's anywhere that it's getting stuck through the ebb and the flow of your inhales and your exhales. When the breath is shorter and quicker, often that will indicate we're in a more excited state or a less grounded, less conscious state. So let's start to deepen the breath now. Take a big full inhale through your nose. And a long, slow sigh out of your mouth to let that go. Again, like that on your next inhale, try to gather up anything that feels urgently like it's demanding your attention. And on the exhale, release it for now, clear. As always, feel free to take as many sighs as you need and return to open mouth exhales throughout your practice whenever you need. Now we'll start to breathe in and out through the nose, and as you do so, feel the breath move through your torso. So first, on your inhalation, feel it inflate your lower belly, then the middle belly, then let your chest rise as it swells with breath, and exhale back down that same channel. So the hands here are placed in a way where you can really feel the expansion through all parts of your torso. We'll take a couple more moments to relax here. Let the knees drop even more. Soften everywhere. Feel like you're heavily rooted to the earth. Now, as we begin to move through this practice, challenge yourself to continue experiencing every breath fully, so that you're not letting a single breath pass by without entering your consciousness, without being fully aware of the inhale and the exhale, and the way that these breathing patterns inform your movement. Take your hands to your outer thighs, softly close your knees together. You can go nice and slow, and then blink your eyes open. Root the soles of your feet down to the mat, hips distance apart. We're setting up for bridge pose. So as you inhale, we'll press the heels down and forward, lift your pelvis up to the sky, and sweep your arms all the way overhead so the biceps draw beside your ears, tops of your hands come down. Exhale, slowly lower one vertebra at a time, your back body back to the mat. Pelvis lands, fingertips go back towards your heels. Again, inhale, magnetize your inner thighs as if you were squeezing a block between them. Feel your toes ground down beneath you, and then try to puff up your heart so that it's coming toward your face. Exhale, lower down, arms float, pelvis lands. One more time here. Breathe in, press your feet down and forward. Activate your glutes and lift your hips high to the sky. Stretch out the space from hip bones to knee points. Exhale, lower all the way back down. Draw your knees into your chest, reach for behind your hamstrings, and rock and roll the length of your spine a couple of times. Massage the sides of your back with your body weight. After a few rolls, we'll pause at the top, find Navasana, boat pose. Lean back until you feel your core start to engage. The toes can stay hovering off the mat. Maybe the shins come parallel to the earth. And maybe you stretch your toes all the way to the sky. The arms can reach forward. They can stay behind the hamstrings. Or maybe biceps come beside your ears. Wherever you are, feel a rooting down from your tailbone into the earth, and then try to expand out through the tips of your fingers and the tips of your toes. Create more space by spreading the fingers and toes. Charge your thighs, take a big inhalation. As you exhale, pull your heels in close to your sitting bones. Feet come down to the mat, reach forward, and come up to a little squat. It's okay if you need your hands through this transition, that's totally fine. Once you arrive in Malasana, bring the palms to meet at your heart center. Drive your elbows to the insides of your thighs, but then press your knees back into your elbows. So we're creating a little bit of resistance here, bit of tug of war. Long spine, feel the breath move through your back body. Let your collarbones broaden so that your heart shines forward. Inhale. Exhale, root your fingertips to the earth, lift your toes and your tailbone, and we'll spin the feet to parallel at the top of the mat. Then bend your knees deeply and find a ragdoll fold. So the torso drapes down over your thighs. Drop fully your head toward the earth. Whatever you want to do with your arms is great. Maybe play with a variation that's not the one that you normally gravitate toward. As we stay here for a few more rounds of breath, remember to come back to the awareness of your breath. Where do you feel the breath spreading? Where do you feel sensations of opening, of tension clearing? Drop your fingertips back down to the earth in front of your toes. We'll take spinal waves. So as you inhale, hug your belly button to your spine. Get really hollow through your core, round in. Then stretch back through your tailbone. Reach forward through the crown of your head, almost like you're sticking your butt a little bit back. And exhale, bow in. Chest comes down towards your thighs. Crown of head drops down. Let these waves feel intuitive so that they're inspired from the feeling rather than any way that you think that it should look. Again, breathe in first, get hollow, rounded spine, then stretch out. All your vertebrae reach away from each other. And exhale, bow down, forward fold. One more time here. Inhale, inflate your body with breath. The breath is the animator. The body's like clay, stretching in two directions. Exhale and fold. Draw your feet together to touch, and we'll rise up to stand. One vertebra at a time, stack your spine, hollow core as you rise. Feel your feet pressing down. Become aware of all four corners of the feet. So feel your big toe mounds, your pinky toe mounds, and then both sides of both heels deeply rooting. Then pinky toes and big toes press down firmly. Lift up through the arches of your feet. Notice how this lifts your thighs and your pelvic floor, creating length, a ripple effect of length through your full body. Breathe in, circle your fingertips wide, and then all the way up overhead. Lift your gaze toward your thumbs. Exhale, swan dive down, forward fold. Stretch your heart to the top of your mat, and then bow down, chest to thighs, crown of head to toes. Inhale, halfway lift, iron out the kinks. Exhale, plant your palms, step back, plank. Breathe in, shift forward, claw through your fingertips. Breathe out, lowered chaturanga dandasana. Elbows hug into the ribs. Untuck your toes, press tops of feet down. Breathe in and stretch your heart to the top of the mat. Upward facing dog, the thighs hover. Exhale, downward facing dog. Belly hugs the spine as the hips glide up and back. First, downward facing dog. You can pedal your feet. Reconnect with the breath, and let the breath be the instigator for your movement. So there's this deepening of sensation that we can begin to feel when the movement is linked with the breath. We'll go 2 more rounds through a Sun A flow just to wake up the body and start building a little bit of heat. Inhale, gaze forward. Exhale, step or float to a fold at the top of your mat, toes together, drop your head. Inhale, halfway lift, stretch out. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, root down, big toes, pinky toes, heels, fingertips rise up overhead, lift your gaze. Exhale, palms meet at heart center. Inhale, press evenly into the earth as much as you reach toward the sky as the fingertips rise. Exhale, dive down, forward fold like you're a big bird. Breathe in, halfway lift. Exhale, palms plant, step or float back, chaturanga. Lower halfway. Inhale, upward facing dog, stretch your heart forward. And exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale through your nose. Press the exhale down into your hands and your feet. Hands and feet press in opposite directions. The palms are reaching forward and the feet are drawing toward the back of the mat. Inhale, gaze forward, lift your heels. Exhale, bend your knees and softly float to a fold at the top of your mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, bow down, forward fold. Inhale, rise to stand, fingertips float to the sky, lift your gaze. Exhale, palms to touch at heart center. Inhale, circle the arms wide like you're gonna swallow the sky, lift your gaze. And exhale, big dive down, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, chaturanga dandasana, your version. Inhale, upward facing dog. And exhale, downward facing dog, hips high. Take an inhale, lift your heels. As you exhale, bend your knees deeply and then press your belly and your heart back toward your thighs. Breathe in, keep the knees bent. Just lift the tip of your tailbone up toward the sky as you drive into the space between thumbs and index fingers. As you exhale, magnetize your heels back toward the earth. The legs can draw towards straight, but it's okay to keep a micro bend or a larger bend in your knees. And let's just do that one more time. So inhale, lift your heels high, roll to the very, very tip of the ball of your feet. Then exhale, knees bend, chest hugs toward your thighs. Inhale, stretch your spine, tailbone rises. Exhale, heels float down to hover away from the mat. Inhale, gaze forward, lift your heels, bend your knees. Exhale, float forward, fold. Let's heel toe the feet hips distance apart. As you breathe in, find halfway lift. And exhale, bow down, fold. Inhale, chair pose with feet hips distance apart. Heels get heavy, knees deeply bent. Fingertips rise buoyantly up toward the sky. As you exhale, sink your hips deeper as though you were actually going to sit into a chair behind you. Hug belly button to spine and then elongate past the edges of your fingertips. Take an inhale. As you exhale, sweep your fingertips back behind you, shoulder blades squeeze like airplane arms, then float your heels away from the earth. Good. Reach forward now with your fingertips, and we'll slowly lower the hips all the way down toward the heels with control. Steady gaze, one point to focus. Reach forward with your fingertips, and then sink your heels all the way down to the mat, little squats. Breathe in. As you breathe out, lift your heels again, and we'll softly lower both knees down to the mat. So use your toes strength. Knees come down. If you need to use your arms through that transition ever, totally fine. We'll come up to standing on the knees. Keep your toes tucked. Sweep your fingertips up overhead. You can bring your palms together to touch, and then bend your elbows so that you can bring your hands to the back of your head. Now here, press your head to your hands, but press your hands back into your head. Magnetize your inner thighs, lift your pelvic floor, and see how tall you can grow your spine. Literally imagine that you're growing several inches. Then begin to bend back just slightly. Feel your heart being pulled on a string up high to the sky. One more inhale. Use your core strength to rise back up. Bring your palms back forward. Shift back to float your knees away from the mat. And then root your heels down. As you inhale, we'll rise all the way up to Utkatasana, chair pose, fingertips float. And exhale, right foot roots, left foot reaches away from the mat, knee comes to your chest, one-legged Tadasana, breathe in. Breathe out, hook the left ankle outside the right thigh, and then softly begin to sink to standing pigeon. The palms meet in front of the heart. Come back to the full-bodied breath. The awareness of all of the spaces that the breath is touching. The more obvious ones, like here, probably into the outer left hip. But also see if you can feel all of the subtle spaces that the breath is reaching to, like all the way down to the tips of your toes and the tips of your fingers. Stretch your heart toward your thumbs. Breathe out, sink in. Inhale, press down, rise up, float your left leg forward, draw it to straighten as you reach your arms up beside your ears. And exhale, glide back, skim the mat with the left foot, cactus your elbows, and then open to airplane pose. Reach your heart forward like it's being stretched out of your body as the left toes go back behind you. Big inhale here. Exhale, softly lower your left toes down behind you. Turn them out to 45-ish degrees. We'll rise up to warrior one. So feel your feet, find your toes, find your rooting. Then press forward and down through your right heel. Float your fingertips up overhead. As you exhale, circle your palms down to the mat. Plant them. Lift your hips up and back. Maybe float your right foot away from the mat and step back to downward facing dog. Breathe in. And breathe out, smooth, steady, full breath. Inhale, look forward. Exhale, step or float to the top of your mat. Toes behind wrists, so feet are hips distance apart. Take an inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, just bow in. Inhale to chair pose. Weight your heels, float your fingertips up, knees deeply bent. And then exhale, sink your tailbone like an anchor down to the earth, but stretch all your fingers like champagne bubbles effervescently toward the sky. One more inhale here. As you exhale, chest comes forward, fingertips glide back, shoulder blades hug together, and the heels float away from the mat. Breathe in. Breathe out, slowly, slowly. We'll sink all the way down. Sitting bones to the heels, reach your fingertips forward. Breathe in here to elongate through your spine. As you breathe out, root your heels to the mat like Malasana, a little squat. Inhale. Exhale, come back to your toes. Heels float. Sitting bones press to the heels. Then, softly as possible, sink your knees down to the mat in front of you. If you need your hands, no problem. Inhale, rise to standing on your knees. Exhale, hands come together at the back of your head. Breathe in, inflate your torso with bright, fresh air. Breathe out, begin to lean just a little bit back. There's no need to go super deep here. Just feel the light of your heart shining toward the sky. One more inhale. And exhale, rise back up, shift back so that your knees can float away from the mat. And maybe the transition isn't so smooth, that is okay. Root your heels down. Take an inhale. Utkatasana, fingertips sweep to the sky. As you exhale, palms come together at heart center and the right toes float away from the mat. Hug your knee towards your chest, one-legged Tadasana. Breathe in here. Exhale, flex your foot, cross right ankle over left thigh, and we'll begin to softly sit down. Standing pigeon. Let your gaze be still. Let your breath be soothing. Let your pelvis and your hips gently open, gently release, gently soften. Big inhalation. Deep exhale, sink. Inhale, press down through the left heel. Reach your fingertips overhead and stretch your right toes to the top of your mat. Charge your thighs, both thighs. Inhale. Exhale, glide your right foot back, hovering it away from the mat. Cactus your elbows, and then reach your fingertips back behind you. Imagine that you could catch the air and then use that as leverage to stretch your heart more forward as the right toes go back. All four corners of the left foot root down, breathe in. Breathe out, softly step your right foot back behind you. Go as slow as possible through this transition. Full exhale. Finally, the foot lands, turn out at 45-ish degrees. Then rise your fingertips up. Warrior one, sink and settle. Exhale, palms circle down to the mat. Lift your hips. Press down, lift your left foot, and step back downward facing dog. Inhale through your nose. Exhale, sigh it out through your mouth. Then take a moment to notice, observe the cleansing after effects of that open mouth exhale. And if you need to take another sigh to really feel this, go ahead and do so. Acknowledging how different patterns of breathing through the nose, breathing through the mouth, affect the body in different ways. It can just be a powerful awareness. And let's go again, finding flow, linking breath and movement. Inhale, gaze forward. Exhale, float to the top toes behind the wrists. Breathe in, halfway lift, lengthen out. Exhale, fold. Inhale, sink your hips, weight your heels, float your fingertips up, Utkatasana. Exhale, fingertips float behind you, toes root, heels lift away from the mat. Slowly begin to circle your arms wide, then reach them forward as you drop the hips all the way down toward the heels. Breathe in, find length. As you breathe out, shift so that your heels come down to the mat, but keep length in the spine so the chest stays proud. Then lift your heels again away from the mat, magnetize your inner thighs, and slowly, softly sink your knees all the way down to the earth. Come up to standing on your knees. Keep your toes tucked as you breathe in. Float your fingertips up high. As you breathe out, this time circle your hands to your low back, to your sacrum. Fingertips can point down or up, whatever feels good for you. Then hug your inner thighs together like you're squeezing a block. Press your pelvis a little forward. Create so much length in your front and back bodies. And then begin to glide your heart up toward the sky. Press sacrum to hands and hands back to sacrum. Lift up through your very low core. So it's like your belly button is rising to your heart. Lean back. And then softly begin to rise back up, coming out just the way you came in, slowly with control. Reach your arms forward, hug the inner thighs, shift back so the knees float away from the mats. Sink your heels down. As you inhale, fingertips float up high to the sky, Utkatasana. As you exhale, press down, rise up to stand. Left knee hugs up toward your chest, right leg draws towards straight. Breathe in. Breathe out, flex your left foot, cross ankle over thigh, and sink, standing pigeon. This time, if you'd like, if the space is available, maybe sink to a bit of depth, and then you can bring your forearms to the front of your left shin. And maybe you stay right here, or it's more like the elbows to the front of the left shin. Maybe you stay here, or you can sprinkle the fingertips all the way down toward the earth. If you're good here, if it's in your practice and you'd like to play with the arm balance, you can root your palms, lift your right heel, start to shift forward. Hook your left toes to your upper arm, and then maybe float your right toes away from the earth, or just play with the balance of shifting forward and back. Squeeze your core, steady your gaze. If you were flying, come back down to earth, root your right foot, and we'll all rise back up to stand. As you do so, stretch your left toes forward to the top of your mat. Bring your fingertips up high to the sky, charge your thighs. Exhale, glide back to airplane, hover the foot away from the mat. Open your chest, fingertips go back, toes go back. Inhale. Exhale, bend deeply into the right knee. Step softly, left toes back behind you, turn them out to 45 degrees. Inhale, rises you up to warrior one. And exhale, fingertips come back down to the mat. Lift your hips high, press down. Step or float right foot back, downward facing dog. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale, look forward. Exhale, float forward. Toes behind the wrists. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold in. Inhale, sink low. Reach high, chair pose, feet hips distance. Exhale, arms glide back, heart reaches forward, heels lift. Slowly, softly, with control. Sink your hips all the way down toward your heels. Reach forward through your fingertips. Then root your heels, sink to a squat. Inhale to come back forward, like your knees are magnetized to the earth now. Shift forward, use your core strength, and softly lower the knees to the mat. The toes can stay tucked, or this time, if you prefer, untuck the toes, press your toenails into the mat. Squeeze in at your inner thighs, lift up the pelvic floor, fingertips rise. Exhale, camel pose, your version. So hands can come down to your sacrum again. Maintain the length as you bend back. So as soon as you start to feel crunching in the low back, you've gone in a little too far. The back body stays really active, so the shoulder blades are hugging. Maybe you reach for the heels, and then stretch your heart all the way up to the sky and beyond. If you're leaning back, feel the front of your throat opening. Feel the breath becoming more available through your lungs. Press into your shins. Hands come back to the sacrum and slowly, slowly, slowly rise all the way back up. Tuck your toes if they're not. Reach forward with your fingertips and come back to standing on your toes so the knees float away from the mat. Inhale. Exhale, root your heels. Inhale, Utkatasana, fingertips rise. Exhale, press down, rise to stand. The right knee hugs in towards your chest, one-legged Tadasana. And then hook right ankle outside of your left thigh, palms to prayer, sink low. And take time here to play. So whether you're just staying, breathing, exploring the way breath and body interact, or maybe you're lowering down so that the torso comes more parallel with the earth, but keeping length in your spine all the time. Elbows come to the front of your shin. Or maybe the fingertips come down to the earth and you can stay here. Or you can play with the arm balance and try to be totally unattached to the outcome here. Let this just be playful. And take a couple more breaths wherever you are, deep and full. If you were floating, reground your left foot. We'll all rise up to stand. Left leg draws towards straight. Press your heel to the earth. Right toes reach forward. Thigh is charged, fingertips float. And then exhale, glide back, airplane pose. Feel a pulling in at your waistlines so that more air can reach your heart space, inflating your heart all the way forward to the top of your mat. Big breath in. And as you exhale, bend the left knee deeply. Right toes go back behind you, turn them out, aligning for warrior one. Inhale, fingertips reach up toward the sky, open your heart. Exhale, palms come down to the mat. Lift your hips back, press down, step your left foot back, downward facing dog. We'll take 2 rounds of breath here, big sighs. Inhale through your nose. Exhale, release, sigh everything away. As you inhale, feel your breath like water filling up the container of your body. As you exhale, like a draining, rinsing effect, all the water rushes away, carrying with it anything you don't need. Softly lower both of your knees down to the mat, and we'll come to a seat so the hips can come back to the heels. Bring your palms to face up toward the sky and soften your eyelids and your shoulders. Try to get really still and just feel your breath. Let all your awareness center, hone in on what it feels like to breathe from the top of your inhalation all the way to the bottom of your exhalation. Feeling these waves as they ripple through your body. And blink your eyes open. Come to a seat and swing your feet forward to the top of your mat. You can root the feet down as you reach your fingertips forward. Breathe in. Breathe out and slowly lower down to lie on your back. As the spine lands on the back of the headland, hug your heels in a little closer towards your sitting bones. Then bring your left ankle to cross outside of the right thigh. Supine figure 4. Float your right toes away from the mat so your shin becomes parallel with the earth. And then you can grab behind your right hamstring, or maybe slide your arms through so your fingers can interlace over the top of your shin. Keep the left toes actively flexed. And also feel your sacrum and the back of your head both pressing down toward the earth. And there's almost a little bit of tractioning between these two spaces. You'll notice when you feel that tractioning, you might increase the opening into the outer left hip or increase the sensation of opening. You can soften your eyes and let your breath reflect this shift, transitioning from the more active part of our practice to this restful and more restorative aspect. The waves of the breath become gentler, easier. Release and switch. So the left foot comes down, right ankle crosses over the left thigh, and then float your toes away from the mat. Grab for what's available and gently hug your knees in towards your chest. And the more that we're able to breathe into what we're feeling, soaking the sensation in breath, and the more able we are to increase our flexibility and our mobility. And so we're doing this in a slow way, in a way where we're feeling every bit of opening. And this creates a deeper knowing of your body and a flexibility that ultimately ends up serving better than something that's rushed or forced. And release. And let's hug both knees into the chest. Take them wide and then make circles here with your knees so the hands can come to the fronts of your shins. We'll go a couple of times in each direction. And then press your feet back to the floor. Arms can open wide, and let's windshield wiper the knees side to side. Gentle release. And let this feel almost a little bit lazy and like a really easy stretch on a slow day. Come back to center, and we'll slide your feet all the way out to the corners of your mat, the bottom corners. Let your toes fall open. And then find your Shavasana, dropping everything down. Imagine that your whole body could melt right into the earth beneath you, becoming absorbed into the earth. Let your breath return to its totally natural, intuitive state, and find deep rest here. I encourage you to stay here, resting until you feel totally melted, like all of the tension has released from your body. And then when you're ready to move back into your day, do so really gently. So start deepening your breath and let your fingers and your toes start to wiggle. You can make circles with your wrists and your ankles. And then we'll take a big inhale and stretch out like a good morning stretch, like it's the first stretch of your whole day. Feel one side expand and then the other. And on your next exhale, roll gently into fetal pose. Knees hug in halfway to your chest and drop everything down. Big surrender. Press down and rise up to a comfortable seat, whatever that means for you. It could be Sukhasana, or you could sit up on your knees again. Let's bring one hand to your heart, one hand to your low belly. Take an inhale, feel your low belly swell with air, then the middle belly, then breathe to the tops of your lungs, inflate your heart. Exhale out of your mouth, sigh. Inhale, low belly rises, middle belly, all the way to the tops of your lungs. Exhale, release. One more time, feel the breath rise all the way up. And let it go. Bring your other hand to stack over the one that's on your heart. And just take a moment here to Feel your own touch. Feel your hands pressing to your heart center. Acknowledge the impact that anchoring to the breath, using the breath to anchor to the present moment, has had on your mind and body through this practice. And know that you're able to access this at any time, releasing the past, releasing the future, honing in on now. Lift your heart and tuck your chin in towards your chest. Namaste. Thank you so much for sharing your practice with me. As always, I am so grateful to guide you through these classes. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, you can do that down below. That really, really supports me. I hope you're doing well wherever you are, and I hope you have a really great rest of your day or your night. I'll see you soon in another class. Bye.